Mayoral Memo with Mathew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Catch Mayor Mathew Dickerson. I noticed on your Facebook page the other day, Dicko, a pretty funny picture of a giraffe sticking its head out of a pothole, alluding to potholes being quite deep around the region at the moment.
That was a real photo, actually. Wasn't doctored at all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In a strange turn of events, that could actually happen in Dubbo.
Yeah, a giraffe could escape from the zoo and get stuck in a
Fall into
pothole.
a massive hole.
That's right. And it's a funny photo, but unfortunately, and I did post it there, and I did think twice before I posted it, because it is a serious issue for people about how bad our roads are, but it was just too funny a photo not to post. But it does highlight that issue that we've got, that our roads are in a worse condition than any time since we started putting bitumen on roads. I think they are in terrible condition at the moment. And I've just actually been in Hobart last week with a couple of fellow councillors and a couple of staff members at a roads congress. And the only thing, well, I got lots of things out of it. One thing that was an overriding issue for me was that it wasn't just Dubbo Regional Council. Every council that talked about anything to do with roads on the east coast of Australia talked about how bad the roads are at the moment. So it is an issue across the state, across Queensland, across Victoria, not so much in the western states. They haven't had as much rain as we have, but they are terrible at the moment, and no end in sight to the rain and no easy solution to the problems.
So are we just looking at having broken roads till the next one in or is it slowly going to be fixed over, the next 10 years or something?
Well, it's going to be fixed, and that's part of the discussion at the Roads Congress. Was two parts of that was, are we doing things in a way that we've done it forever? Are there better ways to do it? So there were a couple of sessions exploring on different ways of actually doing road maintenance, road construction, whether it be cheaper, whether it be better in wet weather. So they were quite interesting. And the other part was just the whole funding model for roads. And there were two emergency motions that came out of that particular Congress, one from Local Government New South Wales, one from Country Mayors Association, which both basically called on the state government in this scenario to do some emergency funding for councils. And we did see about 2 weeks ago, Sam Farraway, the Minister for Regional Roads and Transport, made an announcement of $50 million for roads as a one-off little bonus for councils. And that was welcomed, absolutely. But in the whole scheme of things, it's nowhere near enough. And to give you an idea, our budget this year, $28 million we're spending on roads. We estimate our infrastructure backlog before this latest series of rain events was about $40 million. And the money that we'll get from that latest announcement from Sam Farraway was about $500,000. So it'll help, but as you can see, it's really just scratching the surface. It's really not going to the deeper problem of the road repair in a major way. So I don't know we're going to just put up with it till the next La Nina comes along. We'll be repairing them, but I don't expect we'll be repairing them anytime immediately in the future because we just don't have the funds to do it.
Even if you could, with more flooding coming, is it wise to do it, or is it more make more sense to hold off until we've got some good weather?
That's one of the issues that we're hearing feedback from our road crews out there doing the work at the coalface. They're finding that they're doing repairs and the subsoil moisture is so wet that the repairs they're putting in, those potholes they're filling, are just not sticking, and then you get more rain, exactly as you said then, Matho, you get more rain coming along, and of course it washes that out. So we are doing repairs where we can. We are doing repairs that are urgent, the ones that really need to be done, but you're probably right, it's probably not the best way to spend our money at the moment, given the fact that it's going to stay wet until probably sometime late December before we're going to see a bit of a break in this wet weather.
It's just the time for the Jetsons. We need flying cars is what we need.
That's right.
Yeah, unreal.
Coming up on Friday, Remembrance Day.
Yeah, Remembrance Day is actually one of those really nice times on council, being involved with council, where you do get to remember, and it's not a celebration day. It's a day, in my mind, of recognition of the sacrifices that people have made many, many years ago over many wars that we've had, unfortunately, but the sacrifice that people have made, ultimate sacrifice when they've sacrificed their lives. And we live in what I think is, maybe I'm biased, but the best country in the entire world. But we've only got this country because of sacrifices of lots of people over many years, including those people that have gone to war. So it is that nice opportunity just to reflect and acknowledge the wonderful work that's been done by people in pretty bad circumstances. So again, a nice day, and obviously some people remembering their loved ones, their relatives, their grandfathers, whatever it might be, but a very solemn day. but we like to see people involved, and there'll be school kids obviously involved there. There'll be school groups that will come along to the cenotaph at 11 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, that is always a good day of remembrance. If you get out to the cenotaph or a minute silent at work, that is always a good way to reflect on that day. Also, NRL, we usually see a game from the big guys, but apparently not coming out.
No, we've had the game last year, and this year South Sydney have obviously come out. One of the big things that people don't know about NRL games is that NRL, and I get a bit frustrated with the NRL. Many years ago, we were having discussions with NRL back in the Todd Greenberg days and even before those days, and the NRL was always very keen to take games regional, and we were there with a group of regional cities saying, yes, we want to have those games but regional. What can you do about it? And then they tell the individual councils to go and have some negotiations with the clubs, and the clubs said, sure, we'll play a game regional. The going rate was anywhere from $350,000 to $450,000.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, that's kind of what we thought at the time. Now, some councils do pay that, and some have got clubs associated with them. So, for example, in Bathurst, you've got the Leagues Club there that are the major supporters of that and basically pay a lot of that money. So you do get some circumstances there. Now, we balked at paying that kind of money because that's your money. That's ratepayers' money. And I'm not convinced the best thing to do with ratepayers' money is to pay that kind of coin to what is essentially a rich NRL club. Many people would say, can you please fill the potholes rather than go and hand it over to a club. Last year, Dougal Saunders, our local member, heads up a committee to try and bring more games regionally, and the state government said, we'll kick in $150,000 of the $350,000 that's required to get, say, South Sydney here. So the council last year, before I was involved, signed up a 2-year agreement, and that made sense because then it reduced the cost to $200,000, and then we could sell tickets for the game and maybe we could get close to breaking even. Last year was COVID impacted, so ignore last year. This year, great crowd, 11,124 people, great event. Overall, very well received in the community, good injection in the economy for the community. Even after the $150,000 spent by the state government on that, council, we still lost $67,000. So that was still $67,000 out of your ratepayers' pockets that actually went towards South Sydney to actually host that game. Now, we talked to South Sydney and a few other clubs about having a game again next year. The real sticking point for us was that we couldn't get any commitment, and we started back in February this year. We couldn't get any commitment out of the state government to hand over that additional $150,000 we needed to make it get close to a break even. So it might have meant that if you took the same example as this year, it might have cost the community $217,000 to host that game. So that starts to get a bit rich, but we're still happy to have those discussions going forward. In the end, South Sydney came back and said, loved everything that happened because of football operations. Now, you can read into that whatever you like, but some people might read into that the fact they lost both games, that they probably lost one very heavily, but they probably were expected to win the second game, the one this year, lost both games. Maybe their football operations didn't love it out here in terms of playing, but ultimately no NRL game for next year. We've had some discussions with the NRL themselves because some of the grounds next year are being used up by women's soccer, so they won't have access to some of those grounds. So we've said to the NRL, bring games out here. We're happy to have them out here. We've got wonderful facilities. We're not keen on handing over $350,000, but surely the NRL can come to the party there. So unfortunately, no NRL game. We'll keep talking to clubs. We'll keep talking in the future. We'll hope the state government kicks in that $150,000 again, and that makes it a bit easier for us to do it.
Well, if the state government wants to start stimulating economies in smaller towns, they probably should start looking at things like this. I think it would be a wise decision and not bleeding the pockets of people already suffering from inflation.
That's right. And what a great nursery we've got out here. I mean, we've got Isaiah Yeo and Matt Burton at the moment playing for Australia. I mean, wouldn't you want to see games out here in Dubbo? It just makes no sense at all that they just put their hand out and expect a council, expect ratepayers in that community to hand over that kind of money.
Yeah, it's not like this is just an outlier. We send a lot of talent back east. So he's hoping the NRL and state government come to their senses and so we go.
Yeah.
Mayor Mathew Dickerson, thank you so much for your time this morning. Where can we go to find your podcast for more background information on everything mayoral?
Sure. This is great to have a chat to you, but you don't give me enough time, Alo, so I don't get enough time to talk about everything in detail. So I've got started a podcast a few weeks ago now. If you just search on Mayoral Memo with Mathew Dickerson on your favourite podcasting app, you'll get an hour or more of me every week talking about everything to do with council.
Thank you so much for your time, and we will catch up with you next fortnight.
Mayoral Memo with Mathew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.